All right. Hey.
You okay, man?
Yes, sorry, I just swam here.
I've got webbed hands now. I've been down here for so long.
Well, to be honest, how warm it is at the moment, I'm sweating as much as I should be underwater.
True story.
Anyway, for those who aren't acquainted and joining us for the first time, my name is Matt Davies, Marketing and Community Manager here at Auroch Digital, joined by my aquatic partner in crime,
Matthew Walker, the audio person.
What was that? Was it Sharky and George? Was that a TV show with had a?
Gosh, I remember
that was an aquatic duo, wasn't it?
It was. I remember that, and I remember being sold by it purely because there was a shark in it.
Yeah,
and then but didn't really like the cartoon too much. But the same
was he a detective?
I want to say
I'm not assuming a shark's gender here or anything, but I'm just.
I tell you what, I did like though, and I can't quite remember the name. It might be Street Sharks.
Oh,
there was a
they
trio.
were huge, massive, burly. Those are my gym goals. Yeah, right. Okay,
they were massive.
My gym goals are the original mega tribesmen from Hungary, because I went to Hungary and I saw these massive statues of these guys, and they were all like super burly looking dudes. And then those guys, Shark Gang, and the Biker Mice from Mars.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, that's the squad. Mice from Mars. That's the team. Like if you have any of those rolling with you, you're going to be fine.
So, my answer to that, if we're mostly surrounding around 80s cartoons, none of them, unfortunately, are kind of... Actually, no, that's an absolute lie. Some of them are aquatic-based. TMNT.
Oh, yeah, okay,
Ninja
right.
Turtles. My thing.
I don't do acronyms.
Oh, okay. I think I got that right. Ninja Turtles, Thundercats, what a theme tune with Ghostbusters, without a shadow.
Okay. Stingray.
Oh,
yeah, see, Stingray. The reason we're talking fish-based stuff, not just because we've all gone mad, but
that's true.
We have a very special guest coming in today.
Mm-hmm.
We have Mr. Tim Wicksteed.
This is exciting.
It is exciting because Tim is a very good games developer. He is based here in the Bristol Games Hub. And Tim is also the creator, the developer of two games you may have heard of. The first one being Big Pharma, which is about running a pharmaceutical company, and then Megaquarium. Because Megaquarium is very exciting because we at Auroch Digital are doing the console port and we are going to be publishing this game. It is nice. It's very nice. It's very cool. So we thought today would be a good idea to get Tim to come in, have a chat with us about the game, his inspiration, where it came from, and then just some thoughts about it going on console. So I'm
really interested to know where an idea like this comes from. Like, was it something that he's been planning for his entire life, or was it like an epiphany moment or something?
Yeah. No, I think I'm very excited to see how he came up with it, because the idea. So for those who don't know, Megaquarium is, we'll talk a little bit more about this, but Megaquarium is an aquatic tycoon building game, and it's very cool. It's very, 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 very cool. It's been doing all right. It's been doing very well on Steam. And we as a studio said to ourselves, that would be brilliant on a console. Tim, have you thought about doing it on a console? No, I have not, Auroch Digital. Well, then let us do it for you, Tim. Tim, okay. And I think that's how biz dev meetings go.
that sounded like the screenplay for Auroch Digital or Megaquarium, the movie.
Oh, that would be like Auroch Digital, the publisher.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the biz dev opening intro and stuff. So, but before we get into that, how's things?
Good. It sounds kind of silly to say because this is a gaming podcast, but I'm really enjoying playing games at the moment. And the reason I say that, we touched on...
Is there anything that's really piqued your interest at the moment?
Two things. One, I don't want to be the person that keeps bringing this up, but XCOM, like the reason I'm saying that is because I was very excited about Phoenix Point later this year, which is the spiritual successor to that. Julian Gott, original designer, John Broomhall, the original composer, who I met and shared a cold one with. Lovely guy. That unfortunately got delayed. I
didn't realise.
It was originally out in September. I think it's December now, 2019. So still very excited.
It looked very formed when I saw it at Reds.
I mean, it's very, very polished, but maybe they just need a bit more polished. I don't know. Right. I mean, I'd rather it be delayed and be super polished, super bulletproof than something a bit haphazard. Anyway, so when that got delayed, I was a bit bummed. And I was like, oh, man. So went onto Steam and just absolutely raided the workshop for mods.
Oh, right. Okay.
And my Steam, my XCOM 2 playthrough now it's like a totally
unplayable.
Different game. It's unplayable, full of bugs. No. I mean, some very simple things like it's almost cosmetic. So female and male hairstyles.
Right.
You wouldn't believe how much of a freshness that adds to a game. Yeah. Of course, you've got the DLC. There's the Hunter DLC where you've now got enemy snipers and things. And Shen's Last Gift, which is also very, very good as a side mission. Just loving it. Absolutely loving it.
This is very interesting. This is probably an episode for a future podcast, but like mods in games, like the importance of mods in games and how mods work, because like it has been something quite fascinating. So I play a lot of Hearts of Iron 4, right? And there are loads of mods in there, and normally they're just a muck about with the game and just literally do stupid stuff like, would you like waifu in charge of some, they're really stupid stuff.
Right.
And there's some other ones where they do some total conversion mods, or they like add different things, or they change maps and flags and various other, me and flags, but it's like, there's a whole range of stuff that it edits with that. And I do think there's an interesting point in there about like how you can take a good concept. Now, you still have to have a good game. The basic core concept of the game still has to be good. Yeah. But then you can move it onto, once you've given people that. When we interviewed James Swallow, which was available in the season 3, episode 5, I want to say,
well
tentatively. When we interviewed James Swallow, he talks about this idea of like he's a author of, I can't remember what he terms it is. It's like a scene author or something. But it was basically that he basically gets given a big Lego box of like, here are the rules.
I remember
you can take all this out, clip them all together, and say this is what it is, but you have to put them back in the box afterwards.
And you compared that to the play set, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what it's like with mods, like good mods anyway, I find, which is something like hairstyles, which is like, sounds dumb, but it's like,
but it entirely freshens up the game, because you spend so much time looking at these people, and especially, I know this is a question I want to ask Tim later. You spend a lot of time pouring thoughts and emotions, especially if it's like your friends and family, customizing them to be as authentic as possible. And there's just so much stuff in that. I mean, we're kind of digressing slightly, but there was one particular moment where I was doing a mission, and I think without the mods and the DLC, it would be an entirely quite a bland sort of mission. But there was about 4 big elements in this one mission. I was thinking, whoa, there's a chosen there. I've got haircuts. I've got hunters over there as well. And of course, you had the Lost as well, which is this kind of zombie horde sort of mechanic. And I was like, this is just so much for me to think about right now. But it's utterly gripping. And to go back to our point, I know that Megaquarium has a lot of that going for it.
No, absolutely, it does. But we should probably bring it back to the main part of the episode, which is we should bring Tim in and have a chat with him. So what's that over there in the sea? Right, well, today, as we've mentioned before, we've got a very special guest in the studio. A big thank you to Tim Wicksteed for joining us today. Thank you for coming down to Auroch offices.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Tim's had to come through the subterranean layers, out the bottom bit. I like to think he came through a submarine, because we are here to talk about Tim's wonderful game that we are doing the console port for, which is Megaquarium. So, Tim, I guess the first question I want to ask you, and the thing I really want to... Tell me a little bit about yourself, like where you've come from, who you are, and then we'll get into more about the game itself.
Right, yeah, sure. So, believe it or not, I actually used to be a mechanical engineer. So I haven't come into this
it's a very
industry.
Interesting sideline career.
Yeah, exactly. So, I did all that in uni, and then I had a job doing that for a couple of years, and then something about it just wasn't quite working for me. And I was really like craving something where I sort of lived and died by what I did, and like where, quite high risk, but where I had, I was probably rewarded if I did well, because I just wasn't really getting that from my career as an engineer. And so I quit. I started a company.
Oh, wow.
And I freelanced for a while, just doing like coding and stuff.
As all good video game people do.
Yeah, because I'm a programmer. Is my sort of like core skill, if you like. But I've always loved game design as well. And made my first game, which was like this mobile game called Iron Age, which is no longer available because
heartbreak.
I'm still quite proud of that game, but it was just so uncommercial. I just had not kind of got my head around the market at all. And then after that was actually my sort of breakout hit, which was Big Pharma. And which was a game about running a pharmaceutical company, and on PC, which is obviously where I've made my home now. And then Megaquarium is just the follow-on from that, which is all my creation, and it's self-published and all that, so it's very much like my baby. And that's how we got to where we are today.
Awesome. So I mean, for those uninitiated, give us a little bit of a flavour about what Megaquarium is. Like, what are we talking about when we say Megaquarium? If you have just listened to this and it's the moment before you go, I have to go online and purchase this thing, because this is obviously going to be the game of the year.
So Megaquarium is basically a tycoon game about running your own public aquarium.
So cool.
So yeah, it's all about, if you the easiest way to look at it is if you're familiar with any of the theme park management games. Like if you're old school, you'll love Theme Park and Roller Coaster Tycoon. If you're new school, you might have played Planet Coaster or Parkitect. So imagine that, but you're, instead of looking after roller coasters, these inanimate objects, you're looking after these living beings, these fish and other aquatic animals, and you're having to keep your exhibits alive and deal with all of the compatibility issues and that sort of stuff. So you're laying out your aquarium, you're filling it with fish, and you're managing your staff to keep them all alive.
We love puns on this podcast.
We do.
To what depth
very good.
does Megaquarium go in terms of like the science behind matching a fish up against another fish, its habitat? To what depth does it go?
So the main thing to know about the game is that every single fish and animal in the game is actually based on real life. So there's no made up things, and every single care requirement, every mechanic that's attached to those animals is based on real life. So we've got things like the compatibility of animals, obvious things like whether they'll eat each other, but also you've got like...
That was one of my favourite mechanics of the game, when you're like, do I put this shark in here with something? You're like, maybe that thing will eat. But then equally, there are some animals that do cohabit together quite comfortably, that you wouldn't think naturally would cohabit together, which I found fascinating.
Much like me and you.
Yeah, very much so, very much so.
So it's not just about, the big and the small. It's not just like a big fish will always eat everything. I mean, you do have those sorts of animals. But you've got some interesting things like, like your crustaceans, they're armoured. And so actually, the weird thing about them is once they're fully grown and they've got their shell, they could actually live with things that would eat smaller crustaceans, but they can sort of fend the big ones off. And then you've got the different foods that they eat. And then actually one of my favourite things is just I term it aquascaping, which is basically
great term. That is a good term.
It sounds like a marketing term.
The things you fill your tanks with. So plants, decorations, rocks, this sort of stuff. You're trying to recreate their natural habitat in the sea, right? And so there's a lot of sort of interesting decisions about creating an aquascape which is suitable for a range of fishes, not just one or two.
Yeah, right. Okay. So, where did the inspiration for an aquarium-based version of this come from? What was it? Is it something you've got a personal passion for? Were you at an aquarium and it sort of was like, oh, this is a genius idea? What was it that inspired you to go down this pathway?
So, my partner used to work in an aquarium. She was an aquarist, which is the person who is looking after the animals.
Aquarist.
Yeah. I'd never heard of it
so
either.
much today. This is fascinating.
That is the coolest job title ever.
And so that's the short version, because you can kind of see where that's gone.
Yeah, right.
But the slightly longer version is we were in the car one day and she was telling me about her job, what she'd been up to that week or whatever, and the challenges she'd been dealing with. And she just said as this throwaway remark, oh, you should make a game about running an aquarium. And I just sat there quiet for a couple of seconds and I just replied, I should make a game about running an aquarium. And she was like, no, I'm not serious. And I was like, no. And then I bored her for the next half an hour about why it would make a fantastic game. Why, there's all, like I've already talked about, there's all these theme park games. Why not a game about, a living attraction? And because I'd already heard about so much of the challenges that she dealt with on a day-to-day basis, these were just things that just translated one for one with gameplay mechanics.
I was going to say, when you were hearing her talk, did you think game design thing?
Not until that conversation.
Right,
But it all came flooding back, and I suddenly remembered all the other things she'd been telling me. And I was like, whoa, this is just like, it's just on a platter for me.
That's so cool. That is so cool.
Was that a pun then?
Well, no, we're keeping the aquarium alive rather than put them on a plate. This is the reverse of that. In terms of the game though, like you've already mentioned that it is similar to our sort of like, the theme parks, theme hospitals, blah, 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 that sort of thing. But there's a lot of those that are out there now. This one is about an aquarium, which, again, I don't know many are out there that are about aquariums. But what else is it that makes the game really unique, that's really special about this one compared to all of those other ones you could pick?
Sure, yeah. I think I think some of my favorite things about the game are that it's like a very creative game. So you're not blowing things up, you're creating things, and I think part of that as well, specific with this game, is this idea that it's not solved, right? So it's not like you can't just like pump all the numbers into an equation and it will spit out the perfect aquarium. I don't know what the perfect aquarium looks like. I still am experimenting with layouts, and that's because it's based on all these these systems that are built on each other. So, for example, the interaction, I'm going to get a little bit deep here, okay?
Yeah, very good. You did it. Well done.
Going to get a little bit deep here. But like the layout of your tanks have so many things that rely on that. So for example, if your tanks are all really close together, there's a very short distance for your staff to walk between them for feeding and other maintenance jobs. But the thing is, the easiest way to do that is have all your tanks with their backs sort of together in a circle, if you sort of imagine this, and they're all like their fronts like facing outwards.
Yeah.
But that might not be the shortest walking distance for guests, right? Because your guests are having to go around the outside, which is like a long distance.
Yeah.
So getting that into play, it's not a solved quantity. Like in some areas, you might be like, oh, let's get the guest distance a bit closer. In other areas, let's get the walk distance. But then it depends on what staff you have. Some staff are faster than others. Some feed faster. So like the ones which feed faster, you need to get the walking distance down. The ones that walk fast, that's not so important. It's all about other ways that you can optimize. You can see I'm getting quite excited.
Yeah, no, I definitely
so much stuff going on, all these interactions.
I was going to say there's a really interesting point in the game that I found. It's got a real balance between the micro and the micro management of everything, and then the fun of it. Because you can get so bogged down in like the concepts of like a Paradox game, for example, where everything is micromanagement. And you're just like, boy, I'm redefining what fun is here. But actually, it's like it is those little bits that help you define. Like my first couple of playthroughs were just on the sandbox mode, so I just was sticking tanks everywhere and being like, ha ha ha, look at this big tank with this big shark in it. Great, I've done my job. But then when I started playing like through the main portion of the game, I was suddenly having to think a little bit more tactically, but it still wasn't as like it didn't feel like a job, which I think some games do feel like. So, I mean, do you put that down to the balance of the game? Do you put that down to the simplicity of it? And I don't mean that in a negative way, but but what do you think it is that really gives it that edge?
Well, I guess I'll talk about kind of like my goals with the game, and hopefully I've delivered on them. But I with all my games, actually, I don't think I actually did this quite as well with my last game, Big Pharma. I want it to be like super accessible. I want anybody to be able to enjoy it, but I want there to be depth there for the people who are looking for it. And one of the ways I go about that is you might have noticed there's like no time limits in the game, right? Yeah. So there's a load of objectives, and if you are playing super optimal and you're really thinking about your decisions, you're building while the game's paused, and you're just spending all of your money as soon as it comes in, you're just trying to like maximize, you'll be able to complete the level in less like days, right? Yeah, right. And hopefully that'll be a reward, because you'll feel like you've sort of min-maxed and you've played really efficiently. But if you're just sort of playing for fun, you just plunk things down, you'll get there in the end. You'll probably need an aquarium that's twice the size. Right. Okay. And it will take you a lot longer to get there, but that's okay too. So that's what I've tried to do, and that's, I think, the secret of why a lot of people describe it as quite a chill game. Yeah, but I don't think it's a game that plays itself.
Yeah. Okay. That I think that's a fair reflection. Actually, that makes a lot of sense. Like, how best to describe that? It's the right sort of chill. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a way to quantify that. It's the right sort of chill where you're like, it's not like a switch your brain off type game. That's the thing I think I'm trying to drive at, where you have a game that's just like, I'm thinking of, no offense to anyone who likes bullet shooters and stuff like that, but like one of those ones you just move the mouse around and it's just like, whereas this one, you'll sit down with it looking lovely on your Switch or your Xbox, and you just like, wonderful. I can just relax into this game and like you say, take it on in your own times in those different places. So tell me a little something about the process. Tell me about the research you did. That is something I'm quite interested in. Like, obviously, now I know you have connections in the aquatic world. How much research did you have to do to go and like make this game as authentic? Because it feels quite authentic.
Yeah, quite a lot of research went into it. So there's just under 100 species in the game, and all of those have been painstakingly researched. And I did actually employ my partner.
No, really?
She was by far the best person for the job.
I was going to say, why not? Yeah, and the inspiration as well. So
I started off doing a lot of the research myself, and my partner would admit this, that I was sort of picking kind of duff animals, and she was like, no, you're not these. And then it was like, okay, well, do you want to do it? And she did a fantastic job. And, she already had, there's about 10 books on her bookshelf, all covering, things, ones that go deep into sharks, ones that goes deep into seahorse, into even plants. The plants, all of the plants are real plants. And we've tried to match their sort of stats, if you like, to the real life and try and make it so they work. Like this weird thing where you're not forced to put them with certain animals, but because of the way the stats are, it's sort of, you're slightly incentivized. Oh, this animal really likes leafy things. And this provides a lot of like plant points. And therefore, often you put those together and then you go to a real aquarium and the same plant is with that animal.
That's so cool. Have you had that moment where you've looked at a fish tank and been like, I would have aquascaped this slightly different?
No, not so much. But you know what's really great going to like an aquarium is we have captured like 90% of the ones you will see in your average public aquarium. So it's really cool now. I go to an aquarium and I recognize them all. I can name them all. I've become a bit of a weird like fish geek, and that's.
Is there a term for that? Like a fish nerd? Is there? There must be some sort of like.
If there isn't, then this podcast is about to turn something.
Yeah, we should just come up with one
by the end of the podcast.
Yeah, by the end of the podcast, we've got to come up with a good name
for it. Yeah.
So let's come on to where it's going. So as you said, you started on the PC, and that's where you found your home. It's now moving into console. Firstly, how do you feel about that? Is that quite exciting? A bit nervous? How do you feel about it going out to a new audience?
I'm really excited about it. Yeah, I mean, so this is actually the first game I've ever released on console, and it's really cool to expand the audience, and I'm really interested to see what the response to it is like. I think there's, as far as I can tell, there's not that many of these sorts of strategic games on console. I mean, there's definitely more all the time. But I think that's going to be really fun. The feeling that you can take a sort of semi-deep strategy title, like especially like with Switch, like on the move, is really exciting. Or in the living room where you're sort of relaxed. You could even maybe like play with a friend or a partner, on the sofa, making decisions together. I think there's definitely aspects of the game which will be opened up by the console, that experiences that you just couldn't possibly have on the PC version, and that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think when we saw it, one of the big things that I know I had a conversation with Tom about was he was really much like, this is perfect for, like you said, sitting on the sofa and just chilling to. You've had a busy day, you don't want to play something really super high stressful, you don't want to have bullets flying past your head, and like you say, you don't want to destroy, you want to just be able to do something nice sometimes and be like, just want to create, just want to make something. Those are the sorts
of games I go looking for these days.
Exactly.
Without a shadow. Yeah, absolutely.
We're in a much more of a mature audience where we are at that point where we're just like, we need something that's going to feel a bit more chill, and especially playing, like, I'm very, very excited for this to come out because I'm very excited to play it on the Switch, because it again, it's that portability of it. It's like, and it does play wonderfully on the Switch. I know I sound like I'm bragging because we've been doing the work on it, but it feels so smooth and so easy to be able to play. So, I mean, you talk about that point about the strategy element of it. If you are a hardcore strategy fan or a strategy light person and you're trying and you're a bit hesitant about it being on the console, what can you give some reassurance why you think it would work on there? What do you think would make it a good fit for that console?
I think one of the things that goes in its favor is something, call back to what you were talking about earlier, is this mix of the micro and the macro. So yes, when you are laying down your aquarium, that is a micro intensive thing, and you're going to be placing all those things down. But then I think a lot of the game, it's once you've set everything up, it's sort of automated, and then you're just sort of tweaking. And I think that'll work really well on console. You can sort of, especially on that big screen, you zoom out, watch your things kind of going on, and then you're just sort of interacting where you need to. Oh, this is taking a little bit too long to feed. This didn't get fed. How can we tweak that? I think that'll play really nicely.
Yeah. So you'll be able to find out much more details about this in all the different formats and mediums that we share all our content with. But Tim, if we wanted to find out more about you and more about your company and who you work for, can you give us a little bit of a plug of who you are and where we can find more about Tim Wicksteed?
Yeah, sure. So you can find my personal /company Twitter account, which is @twicecircled, which is TWICEIRCLED.
Well done.
Put a little jingle underneath that.
Oh my god, yeah. And but also, just check out the store page. Type Megaquarium into Google, and you'll come up with my website. You can check out the Steam store page if you just want to like read up on the game before. But there'll be store pages out, I'm sure, very soon, if not already, on all the console platforms, portals, and yeah, from there you should be able to find all the other things that I've worked on, including my past game like Big Pharma. and that sort of thing.
And then we can
I ask? Sorry, do you want to go first?
No, I was just going to say we can also look forward to seeing Ion come back at some point in the near future. This is
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
I was just going to say, no, I want to ask a question that our listeners, our thousands of listeners, are aching to know the answer to. Okay, one game that comes up far too often on this podcast is, of course, XCOM. Insert foghorn. Can you add your friends and family as fish, and do they perma-die? Because that is a game changer for me. Sometimes I avoid doing that.
Tim. This could be a sale.
Yeah, it could be a sale.
Okay. Let me talk straight. This is facts. You can rename any object in the game.
Be a plant.
You can name a plant after yourself or a family member or a friend. You can obviously do the same with animals, stuff, tanks.
I named a bench the Mike Dorr Memorial Bench the first time I got the game.
I mean, I was sold at fish, but if I can be a plant or a tank itself, or indeed just put myself as like the janitor guy, I'll be happy. I'm going to make
you the orange juice machine in my game.
yeah. That is cool.
Matthew Orange Juice Walker.
Yeah, was it Matthew Widestance / Orange
Walker?
Yes, that's an in-joke. We'll take that out.
Okay, sure.
So bad.
Tim, honestly, thank you so much for coming down. We really do appreciate you taking the time. And we'll speak to you all very soon. Fishologist. Fish. I don't know what the Latin for fish is.
You're looking at me when you say that.
Come on, you didn't learn Latin when you were at university?
Absolutely, yes, I did. That's the sort of skill I would like to have, much like your migration patterns of aurochs.
Yeah, that's it. We did have to learn a little bit of Latin and ancient Greek when I was studying classics. Yeah, I could not tell you. I mean, I basically bailed out on it quite quickly. Okay. I was like, nope. And I have a lot of friends who do. I have a lot of friends who speak Latin. That's going to sound really like arsehole-y, but that's not what I intend. Anyway,
that was mad. That really good chat.
Lovely Tim.
Yeah.
Really good to have him here in the studio. Like he's such a nice bloke, and he. I can't express this in any other way. He was getting very animated in a really excited and good way, and that's really cool to see from someone who's made a game.
Yeah,
when you're talking about a game, you can tell when someone's like, "It's all right." I hate it when you talk about bloody XCOM, but it's but when you see someone's passion for it and it comes through, I loved it. It was fascinating. I could have talked to him for another 15-20 minutes, honestly. So
I mean, it's one of those moments where you kind of wish we were doing the Joe Rogan YouTube thing where you can just watch us chat instead of just hearing us, because you can't record.
Which is that's a very good point there, Matthew. You made without even realising what you've done.
Or
you've done
was it not very planned?
Well,
I don't know.
Because we are currently running a survey that goes alongside this series, which is going to be available. You can find it on our Twitter, go on our Discord pages and have a look at all the socials. So all the different mediums there. But we're just basically genuinely asking people what's the best way for them to find an interest and find this podcast in the future and use it. And one of the questions is, would it be better if this was on YouTube? Because I know a lot of people now say like, oh, podcasts need to be on YouTube rather than... See, I listen to mine when I'm walking home. So I instinctively have like this is how I'm going to engage with said product. If you want to find out more, head over to all the Auroch Digital stuff and find out. But more importantly, it is Megaquarium announcement time, and we're very, very excited that we've announced this title. We're very excited that it's going to be coming out in September.
The best month.
With our fingers crossed that everything goes super duper well with that. But yeah, it's going to be coming out on Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo Switch. It's looking great. It's looking cool. I'm really excited to play it. I'm really excited to play it. I'm really
just as we were saying, you can't record the excitement, and here's Matt with a vein popping out his forehead right now.
It's gonna be great. As Tim said, it meets two different. It's a perfect Venn diagram, right? Okay, if you're a strategy fan, right? Okay, it's got those elements of min-maxing and sorting stuff out and being really detailed and whatever else. And if you're like just a little bit more laid back in your gaming, slightly more casual, it's right in the middle. You don't want to play something that's super, super complex one side, and you don't want to play something that's like super laid back on the other side.
You still want some degree of a challenge.
Synergy. Harmony. Other words that sound like business. I don't know why I put an American accent on
based on your monologue just then, which should be some sort of dramatic performance, because I was gripped by that.
Thank you
very much. Also with Tim's chat, I'm sold. Like, I'm a convert to this thing. This sounds utterly, utterly amazing. Really, really cool.
So you can find more details by heading over to aurochdigital.com, checking out all the information that we have on there. We can also go onto our Twitter, onto our Facebook, onto our Instagram, onto our YouTube. You can check out the trailer videos there. Go on Steam. You can see it on the Megaquarium page. Tim's going to put an update on there. Mm-hmm. You can listen to this again.
if you really must.
If you wanted to, you just get so much Megaquarium in you. So head on over, have a look-see, have a check, and then we'll probably see you next time.
Probably.
Most definitely.